Tracy. Welcome to my channel. If you haven't been here before, or welcome back if you watch my videos, and if you do, as always, I thank you so much. I love to upcycle clothes and turn thrifted items into fun, edgy pieces, wearable art, or just breathe new life into it. And today we are creating this duster. Now this is made out of a 3X dress that I cut open, added fringe and leather and flower appliques, cut out of a bed sheet. This is from a scarf. So super cool piece. I designed it to sort of go with this outfit, but boy, you could wear that with jeans or just about anything. So I'll put the link to the tutorial. I upcycled this dress, and I'll put that link in the description. And the scarf is still to come. I'm editing that, and when it is finished, I'll put that link in the description as well. So I want to show you what it looks like on. How fun, right? All right, we're making this. Let's get going. Okay, so the duster started with this dress, and I loved the hippie boho pattern. It's a busy pattern, and I thought tied in nice with all my other little busy patterns on my dress. My dress is all finished. This is polyester. It's a size 3X. I wanted it to be oversized, and I love these balloon sleeves. So I thought I had all the makings of a great duster, and I'm feeling extra artsy today. So this is going to be pretty funky. So let's get rolling. So the first thing I want to do is cut this dress open in the front, right down the center. Now I really lucked out here because this pattern is placed so perfectly that I can just follow these little shapes right up to the V-neck. But if you don't have a pattern like this where you can just follow a line, just take a yardstick. We're just trying to find the center to cut. Just take a yardstick and go from seam to seam. Like this is 28, mark halfway 14, go down, do it a little more, and just keep going down, and then armpit to armpit, mark the center until you get all the way to the top so you can find your center and cut it open. So I'm very happy I lucked out here. So I am just going to cut that right down the middle. Okay, so the first thing I want to do after I get this cut open is I am going to do a ribbon tie up at the top, and I'm going to do that first because this is too big for my mannequin, and I want to put this on my mannequin to do some patches and things, and I need to be able to tie that or it'll just be slipping off of my mannequin. So I'm going to do that first. So how I'm going to do that is my dress was a V-neck. So I'm going to where the bottom of that V was on each side before it starts this straight line. And I have two pieces of gray satin ribbon, and they're each 36 inches long. And I am just going to sew this. So here's my neckline. I'm going to sew it right at the bottom of that neckline. I'm going to overlap it about 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to do it on the outside because I am going to have black fringe going down here. And so that black fringe will hide that stitching. So I will use a black thread, a fairly small straight stitch, and I will go over it 2 or 3 times because it's a tie and it will possibly get tugged and all of that. And then I will go to the other side and sew my ribbon on the same way, just facing towards the middle on the outside underneath that V. I have the ribbons all sewn on, and now this is going to be layers. And the first layer I want to do is I want to do some patchwork. So I cut out some patches Now these are just from the fabrics that I used to make the dress. And I thought it'd be fun to use similar fabrics, and that way they coordinate nicely together. So I'll show you what size and where I place these patches. I'm going to start with this animal print rectangle. It's 10.5 by 7. And I want to put this on the back. Now I have mine on my mannequin. It's easy to pin and see where I want it. If yours is laying on the table, stick a piece of cardboard between the front and the back so that you can pin that easier without worrying about catching the fabric on the opposite side. And I want this one just sort of off center to the left. So I'm just going to start pinning that. I'll stick 2 pins in and then I'll stand back so you can get a better look. And then I'll pin it better before I sew it. Okay, up here. So it'll be about like that. I'll take my time and pin that a little better. But that will be the one I start with. And when I sew it, I am going to use a zigzag stitch because I feel like these patches, if you use a straight stitch, they kind of look unfinished. If you use a zigzag stitch, it kind of finishes it off and it zigzags a little decorative. And I haven't decided if I will use black or brown thread. Probably will use black. So I will go to my machine. I'll set it on the largest zigzag stitch that I have. Use black thread and just sew around this. And I'll stay as close to the edge as I can get. Okay, so now I have this one sewn on, and I will sew the rest on exactly the same way with a zigzag stitch. Now I have this 12" by 4" little patch, and I'm going to put it about right here towards the corner. I think I'll overlap that animal print a little bit, and this will go on right there. I'll take my time and get that pinned on before I go to the machine. Now I have a little patch, 7 by 6 inches, just a slight rectangle, and I'm putting it on with the long part going like this. And I'm just going to put this over to the side about right here. Now I'm on the front. So that'll go there. Now I have another little black one. It's 9 by 9.5. And I want it lower than this one because I don't want it to match. So I'm going to come on this side and put this here a little bit lower than the one I did on the other side. And get that pinned on. Now I have another animal print, 8.5 by 7. And I think I'm going to just go below this purple one. And I'll get it close to it. I won't completely butt it up against it, but I'll get it close. Okay, so now I'll just take my time getting those patches pinned, and I will take it to my machine and stitch them on. Okay, I'm going to add one more. Another little animal print, 5 by 4.5 inches. And I want to put that on the sleeve. About right there, towards the top of the sleeve. Okay, now I'm ready to secure those and get them stitched on. Okay. So now the patches are all sewn on. And now I want to add some things to the bottom, but first I need to mark where I want to put them, and I'll show you what I do there. Okay, So here's the bottom of my duster. I have it all opened up. And this is just a little preview of what I will be doing to the bottom of it. But before I sew anything on, I need to mark where this will all go. So I'm just going to take that off for now, and we'll talk more about that stuff in a little bit. And where I want to sew that fringe, I measured up from the bottom to where I want to sew my fringe on, and I got 9 inches. So I am just going to go to the bottom of my duster and measure up 9 inches, and I'm going to make a line. And I'm going to make a pretty long line because there's a lot of pattern going on here, and those little dashes can really disappear in something like this. So I'll measure up 9 inches and draw another line. And this will just be my guide for when I sew everything on. And so I am just going to continue to do that all the way to the other end. I think I'll make my dashes a little closer together here. That way there's no confusion when I'm sitting at the sewing machine. So I will just continue to do that till I get to the opposite end. Okay, so now the first thing I want to do at the bottom is add some leather fringe. And I don't have a whole coat right now. I just have coat remnants, but I get leather and suede jackets at the thrift store to make my suede and leather fringe. And when I get my coats home, I wash them. Now, if it's a coat you want to wear or sell, do not wash it in the washer and dryer. But a lot of times, leather and suede have funny odors. You know, they're expensive to dry clean, so they probably haven't been dry cleaned in a while. So I always wash them in my washer on a regular cycle in cold water, and then I dry them in the dryer. I don't line dry them because they get real stiff. They'll shrink a little bit, and now and then you'll get a little water spot, but we're just cutting it up anyway and using it as fringe. Okay, so what I'm looking for when I go through here are long panels, and I don't want any seams. So when I find a nice section like this, I'm just going to cut inside those seams and cut it out. So there we have one. I wish it was a little longer, but it will work. Now this dark brown one has a nice long panel. There's a seam here, so I'm going to cut under it. And then I just want a pure piece of suede and leather. I don't want any seams. So I'm just going to sort through here and try to find as long of panel pieces as I can to make my fringe. Okay, so these are the panels I was able to salvage out of that pile. And they range from about 12 inches to 17 inches. And I want them all different lengths. I'm not going to cut them even so that they're straight. I just think that's too clean and perfect. I want this to be kind of wild. So I will now make the fringe, and I'll come to my cutting mat, and I will lay, let's see, I'll pick a piece. I'll start with this piece. And I will just lay it on my cutting mat, and then I have a straight edge here and a rotary tool, a rotary cutting tool, and I use a titanium blade, and you can get those on Amazon. They're pretty easy to find online. So I'll just lay down my straight edge, and that first piece I'll just cut off and throw away because it's all crooked and everything. And now I will just cut strips a little over 1/4 inch wide, and I just eyeball it. If it's a little less than 1/4 or more, it doesn't matter as long as they're close. Okay, so that's what we have, and I will continue cutting the rest of these, and I already have a little pile that was in my basket from projects past. So with all these and what I have, it should be enough. What I'm doing here is I have a limited amount of leather, and I want to be able to use as much as I can without running short. So I am laying it out how I think I want it, and I'm spacing. Here's the line that we drew with the marker right along here. And I'm testing this out to see, do I want them an inch apart, inch and a half? If I go an inch, am I going to have enough fringe? Well, I laid these out about inch and a half apart, and I won't be measuring. I just need to get a mental sort of picture. So if I lay them out about like that, I still have this much left. So I could even go an inch apart. And I really like how that looks. And now I am just going to take my pile of fringe with me to the sewing machine, and I'm going to get it sewed on, and I'll take you with me and I'll show you what I do. Okay, here's the bottom of my duster, and can you see that black line that I drew earlier with the marker? I am going to sew that fringe right along that line, putting my bottom part into the machine, and I am going to start at the very edge, and I'm just going to put my presser foot down over that for now. Now I have this pile of fringe just sitting next to me at the sewing machine, and I will alternate these colors accordingly. I have most of this, so I'll probably go like 2 or 3 of these, and then a dark brown, and then a light, just alter it however I want. And so what I'll do is, now that I have this edge under the presser foot, I'll pick it back up, take a piece of my fringe, set it right on that black line, put my presser foot back down. Now I'm going to use a fairly small straight stitch and just begin sewing. I'll go forward, backwards to lock it in. Okay. And then I think I'll go between an inch and a half apart. They may vary along the way. It doesn't really matter. So now I'm going to take another piece of brown. I've sewn about an inch away from that one. Lift up my presser foot, stick this under, and sew over top of that. And I'll continue that all the way to the end. Now I think I want to use a dark one. Go a little further. Lift up my presser foot. And you do not need a special machine to sew jacket leather. A lot of leathers are a lot thicker, but like jacket leather and suede isn't that thick. And as long as you have a good denim needle to get through that leather, you can use probably about any machine. Okay, so now I'm going with a light, and I am just going to continue doing that all along that line until I get to the end. Okay, here's what the fringe looks like all sewn on. And I have about this much left. So I think I'm going to split that up and do some fringe down the side of this cut here. And I think I'll start up here just under the ribbon. And this time I will sew it. Okay, so let's say we're starting with this side. I will sew it on like this all the way down, because this will also have fringe. And so I will sew it on this way, and then when I come to this side, I will sew it on the opposite direction, going all the way down. And I think I'll go every like 2.5 inches all the way down on each side, alternating the fringe. Okay, so now I have the fringes all sewn on the front. That's what it's looking like. And at this point, I will not wash this in the washer. I will dry clean it. So once I have the fringe on, the fringe doesn't wash as nice as the jackets. When it's cut into fringe, a lot of times it'll crinkle and kind of get misshapen. So from this point forward, I would say dry clean it. And if you sell upcycled items, I would put in there at the very bottom, I usually put care instructions, dry clean only, something like that. Okay, so let's add some more fringe. Okay, so now I have this fringe. It's kind of lacy looking. I got it on eBay quite a while ago. I got a good deal on it, and I think I bought like 10 yards of it. So I'm going to have plenty for this project. So I'm going to put this fringe along this line and up the side, but I'm only going to start with this line first. So what I'll do is take the very edge of my fringe and I will lay it, actually I'll have to start on the other side when I'm actually at my machine, but it doesn't matter where you start. So I am just going to sew it over top of that leather fringe right along that black marker line that I drew earlier. And I'll just put it at the very edge and I'll use a fairly small straight stitch and a black thread. And I will just sew it all along that line. I'll try to keep it on top of the leather a little bit when I sew. I don't want the strips to poke out above the trim. So I'll just sew all along here till I get to the other end. And when I get to the very edge, I'll just snip it off on the other side. Okay, I have that bottom fringe sewn on. And now what I want to do is add that black fringe to the front. I want to come all the way up the side of each one of those cuts, up around the neck, down the back, and around the front again. And I'll get you closer and show you how I do that. Okay, this is the fringe we just sewed on. Now what I want to do is sew it up one side, and I will start, let me find the end of my fringe here. So this one, we have the fringes facing down. Now on the front cut open side, I want it facing, the fringe facing out. So this is the open area. I don't want to sew it like this where the fringe is in the open area. Here's my tie ribbon up here. I want to face it in, and I am just going to overlap where we started off. That last piece of fringe, I'm just going to overlap that a little bit, and then I will overlap this raw edge. So this fringe serves two purposes. It's decorative and it's finishing our raw edge. And I just want to overlap it just enough so you don't see that raw edge. And I won't pin this or anything. I'll just take it to my machine, start sewing here with a black, fairly small straight stitch all the way up this side. All the way up, right over top of that leather fringe we sewed on. And now we're getting to the neckline here, where it curves around the back. And here's our gray satin ribbon tie. I am going to go right over top of that ribbon and just keep following this around the neckline. Just staying right at the very edge until I get to this opposite side. So I'll go around the neck. Here's our other gray ribbon. And I want my fringes on the side here all facing out. And I'll just come down the opposite side until I get to where we sewed that bottom on. I'll overlap it a little bit, stitch it, and just snip it off. Okay, now I have that fringe all sewn on. And there's one more fairly time-consuming thing I want to do to this. Okay, so now what I want to do is sew some flowers, flower applique onto the duster. And what I'm using is a bed sheet. This is just a fitted bed sheet with roses all over it. Now there's several different color roses, but since this is fall and this is sort of a deep color, I only cut out the red, and I cut out, there's some smaller ones and some larger ones. I cut out both because I sort of want to alternate that on my duster. So I spent some time this morning and I got those cut out. Okay, and so what I want to do is pin these, continue pinning these on. I started here, right along here. Now you would think it would be easier to sew these on before we get all the fringes and everything sewn on. But yes, it would be, but I wanted to see where the fringe and everything laid. I didn't want to mistakenly sew these underneath where the fringe goes, and then I do all that work and they're just hidden underneath. So what I will do is I started pinning here my flowers on, and I want to come up alongside the fringe. Basically, I just want to follow that fringe, the black fringe line. And so I'll come up here, I'll sew another one or pin another one there, and then a small one, because this is large, I'll go small right there. And so I'll continue pinning these on. So I'll come up around here, down over the shoulder, down under that fringe line, back up over the shoulder, and down this fringe line, and along the bottom, where it will meet right back there where we started. And, you know, there's no secret to pinning them on, just how you like it. I'm going to try to do large, small, large, small. So I'll get them all pinned on, and I'll show you what it looks like and how I sew them on. Okay, I have everything pinned on. And now I just need to get a cup of coffee and sit down and sew for a while. I will just use a fairly small straight stitch, and I'll just try to stay as close to the edge as I can, and I will just follow these flowers and leaves all around. Now, my flowers are red and green, and I don't want to use red thread, and I don't want to use green thread. I think I'm going to use gold, and I use gold a ton because it is very forgiving on a lot of different colors, even like blue, a lot of different colors. The gold kind of disappears. So I'm going to use gold, and I am going to get those all stitched on. Okay, I have it thrown over top of the dress, but I have the flowers all sewn on. Super cute. And I want to do one more thing. And if you watch my videos, you know I say that a lot. My name should probably be Tracy One More Thing. So what I want to do is, I'm feeling like I want to do something to the back here. And I think I have an idea. So I'll show you that. So I have this beautiful scarf, and the label says 100% something. It's in a different language, so I don't know what that is, and it's driving me crazy, but it sort of feels like silk, but it could be polyester or rayon. Sometimes those can fool you and almost feel like silk, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to use the same procedure no matter what fabric content it is. I'm going to use a fusible interfacing to give this structure and cut out one of these bouquets. And you know, I've gotten a lot of slack, or some slack over the years, for cutting up beautiful things, but I spend hours on my creations and I want them to be beautiful. So why wouldn't I use something that I think is really pretty? So we're going to use this. So I'm down at the very end of the scarf, and this is the cluster of flowers that I want to use, minus the gray. So I am just going to roughly cut this out. And this scarf has 2 layers. So I'm just going to cut those layers open. Okay, I'll get this roughly cut out and then show you what I do. So this is my fusible interfacing, and this is a medium stiffness. I use it on purse lining. That's just what I have, so I'm going to use it. Now I'm going to lay my applique just over top, and right now it doesn't matter what side of the interfacing I lay it on, because I am just going to roughly cut around that as well. You know, just so I don't have, I want the interfacing to extend past the cluster a little bit, just so I'm sure to have a large enough piece. Just like that. And now I'm going to take it to my ironing board, and I'll show you what I do. Quick note here, I changed my mind. When you cut this out on top of your interfacing, cut it out. There are 2 sides to this interfacing. There's sort of a smooth side, and then there's like a bumpy side. Those are little glue dots. Lay it on the bumpy side, because I'm thinking if I hadn't done that, I lucked out and did it correctly, maybe it wouldn't have fit the other way. So just be safe and lay it on top of your interfacing with the glue dots facing up. Okay, so this is laying on top of my interfacing with the glue dots facing up. I have my iron. I just always have it on sort of a cotton setting. I'm going to go ahead and go with that. And I have the steam turned off. And now I'm going just to take a tea towel that I use for everything, and I am going to cover this up. I don't want this glue to get on my iron is the main reason, and I also don't know the content of this fabric, if it's iron friendly or not. So I am just going to lay this over top. I'm just going to check, make sure nothing's crinkled underneath. And I can see it through my tea towel, but you might have to peek and see where things are. But I am just going to lay my iron on top, and I'm going to hold it for 10 seconds. Now my steam is shut off. I hear a little bit of steam happening here. Maybe it's just residual. Okay. And then once I have that down for 10 seconds, I will move it over and do it again. I don't know what's going on with my steam here. Maybe I don't know how to shut it. Oh, there we go. Okay. Don't go like this. You don't want to iron it like this. You just want to press, lift up, move over, and hold for 10 seconds until the complete piece is adhered to the interfacing. Okay, so now I'm just going to cut out everything I want to keep. The only thing I really don't want here is this gray. So I'll cut around all these flowers and the leaves. Take my time. And I'll come back once I get that all cut out. Okay, so now I have it all cut out, and I need to pin it onto the back of my kimono. And I want to center it the best I can. What I typically do is just get it close to the way I want it. And I have a mannequin, you know, you could do this on your table as well. I'll get it close to where I think I want it, and then I'm going to stand back and look at it and most likely adjust it. So I'll get that pinned on and come back and talk to you a little bit about how I'll sew it on. Okay, now I have like 5 pins in there, and now it won't shift around. What I'll do is take it off the mannequin and spread it out on my table and continue pinning that more carefully around. And then I will just take it to my sewing machine and follow the edge of the design, the leaves, the flowers. I'm going to use gold thread, and I'll use a fairly small straight stitch. Okay, here it is all finished. I love it. I think I'll live in this. What wouldn't it go with, right? It's so cute. And I have a couple brooches I could choose. You know, maybe you could put a brooch. I have this pretty vintage brooch with some black one black stone and some rhinestones. That would be really cute on it. Here's if you want to be more funky and more hippie, boho. You could pin some stars on it. All right. So now I'm just going to show it to you styled. Just a little clip of it with the whole outfit, the dress and the scarf. And thank you so much for watching.